everybody. Today we are discussing creation evolution on trial, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for an epic one. I think this is going to be a total blast. We have Creation and Evolution on trial with Kent Hovind and Mark Drisdale, an animal specialist. I think this is going to be a blast, so want to let you know just a few things as we get this debate cracking. First up, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them into the live chat, and I will pull them out, put them in a list, and we will ask them during the Q&A at the end. Also, if this is your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we've got a lot more debates coming up. In fact, we are very excited as we will have a Is Trump Racist debate. That will be a provocative one, very juicy. So we are excited to have a lot more debates coming up. Be sure to hit that little bell notification if you want reminders of when those debates are happening as well. And want to let you know, both of our speakers have their links in the description. So if you are enjoying what you are hearing, you can conveniently click on their links just below that are waiting right down there for you. And with that, we want to say thank you very much to our speakers. This really, it is. Modern Day Debate is kind of like an abstract entity. It's really, the value is from the speakers, the guests that we get to have on. We owe them big time. And so want to ask if you can do us a favor, your questions and super chats that you do send in, if you want to do us a favor, and keeping the questions germane to the subject that is being debated today, as well as once in a while we do have a personal attack, believe it or not, in the questions or the super chats. And so we just want to ask if you can respect those people, our guests that we have here today. I feel like I personally owe them because we really appreciate them being here. And also almost forgot to mention that we will have super chats. Basically, it gives you a chance to make a comment or a statement, like citing a study or something that you want to cite. And it'll also go to the very top of the list for the question and answer. So with that, we are thrilled to let this thing get rolling. We have 10 minutes of opening statements. Mark will be going first, followed by 40 minutes of open discussion, and then 10 minutes of Q&A. So with that, thrilled to have you here, gentlemen. Thanks very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
You betcha. And one last thing before we do have before we have Mark open it up, we do want to do just a moment of silence, as a lot of you have probably heard that Bill Ludlow has passed on, and so we really do want to let his family know that, if they happen to hear this, as well as his friends, we want to let you know our hearts go out to you. We know it's a very hard time right now, and so we will take a moment of silence just as a way of saying that, our hearts go out to Bill's family and friends. And so that we'll just take that moment of silence just now as a kind of a sign of respect to Bill. So thank you very much, everybody. We're thrilled to have you here. And it's one thing to keep in mind is that though we disagree, we disagree fervently, vigorously, nonetheless, we still hope you know that it's like at the end of the day, it's like we disagree, but we care about each other. And so we are glad that you were here, whether you be Christian, atheist, Republican, Democrat, you name it. We're glad to have you here. So with that, I have got the clock set.
Let her do this, Tammy.
For 10 minutes. And Mark, thanks for being here. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, James. So yes, actually I was on the live chat and got to hear about Bill. This is new news for me. It shooken me a little bit. So if my opening statement's a little off, I got to be honest with you. I've talked to the man a couple times. I had the honor to talk to him on the phone. And it's very disturbing. I did not even know that he was sick. And it's funny because we were sitting in the moment of silence, and I was thinking back to the Kent Hovind Bill Ludlow debate, and thinking back to that and some of the stuff that I'd heard on there. But yes, Bill was a good man. If any of his family's out there, he did a lot of really good work. But in preparing for this debate, I started to look into this is an evolution versus creationism debate. And as I started to look into this more and more, I started to go down more of Kent's rabbit holes that were, I don't even know what word I would use, except basically unbelievable. Most of Kent's beliefs fly in the face of everything that we understand in reality, the real world around us, and just in general, everything that we see happening day in and day out. Kent's beliefs pretty much on everything fly in the face of science, flies in the face of math, flies in the face of physics, and yet he claims to be a 15-year high school teacher, which I really cannot understand. So I'm going to allow Kent today to use his 6 levels of evolution, even though I cannot possibly understand how the beginning of the cosmos has anything to do with the evolution of animals from a single-celled organism all the way up into, if we want to consider man to be the supreme being, into man. But I'm going to allow that for Kent today because I'm hoping to use that in my favor as well when it comes to him trying to explain some of his beliefs back to me. I'm going to use that exact 6, 7, possibly 8 levels of evolution as well. So I hope that the moderator allows that and gives me that free way to kind of use this, in my opinion, a way of using the word evolution that I have never thought of using it before. Some of Kent's beliefs when it comes to the flood, actually, that is obviously going to work its way into this evolution debate, in the fact that after Kent's flood, we only have approximately 4,000 years to produce all of the different cats that we see on Earth today, all the different dogs that we see on Earth, the wolves, all the way from the penguin to the hummingbird. So I'm going to be really interested to hear from Kent, if it's a bird kind, how we can go from a hummingbird to a penguin, which basically flies in water. There's lots of things that I'd like to go over here with Kent. I really hope that we have the time. So I would like to myself donate some of this opening time into just a back and forth discussion, because I know Kent always says that he wants to do this question by question. He doesn't like it when we do the Gish Gallop or the Hovind Hustle, as Tony called it last week, I believe. So at that point, I would just like to say that everything that I know about animals is completely polar opposites to the way Kent believes that animals have gotten to the point that they're at today. The amount of species that we have, the possibility of 1.3 billion species of terrestrial animals fitting on an ark, how we could possibly handle the ammonia, how we could possibly handle the amount of heat that many animals would produce. We're up here in Canada, and in the winter, to keep our kangaroos and zebras warm, we will put a few cows in our barn. So you've got 1,000 square foot barn, we'll put 10 cows in it, and it'll more than keep that barn at 55 to 60 degrees on a -5-degree day. So I'd like to hear from Kent where that heat went from, or went to. We know where it came from, but I'd like to know where it went to when, from everything that I've read in the Bible, I believe there was one door and one window. So I'm thinking that must have been one hell of a window. Let's get into the discussion portion. I want Kent to, start his mantra here of dogs produce dogs and everything else that we've heard back and forth, but I'm sure he'll take his time to do that. And let's hear about the dogs, Kent, and then we'll get into the back and forth.
Well, thank you, sir. You donate your time to me. I appreciate that.
There you go.
The Bible says pretty clearly, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. God is claiming that he did it. And in John chapter 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by him. And we see later that the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So the book of John certainly teaches that Jesus was God in the flesh and that he created all things. Colossians 1 repeats that. By him, that's Jesus, were all things created in heaven and earth. So your position obviously is saying that the Bible is wrong, or Jesus is lying, or both. Jesus claimed he was God Almighty in the flesh, and I happen to believe that. And Jesus said, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, which was obviously Adam and Eve. So I think everybody that knows the Bible would certainly say, whether they believe it or not, the Bible teaches the creation of Adam and Eve was the beginning. We see that in Mark 10:6 and Matthew 19:4. So Jesus said the creation of the beginning was when God made Adam and Eve, And the Bible clearly teaches that man brought death into the world, whereas your religion of evolution teaches death brought man into the world. Death is a wonderful thing. All the inferiors have to die so that the superior one can take over the gene code. And that is Adolf Hitler 101, in my humble, totally unbiased opinion. So the Bible says that man brought death into the world, not death brought man into the world. So Jesus said the creation of Adam and Eve was the beginning. The Bible says nothing died till Adam sinned. And the evolution theory is in complete opposition to that. And I don't know how anybody can believe the evolution theory. So let me skip a few things here. I just want to point out that certainly the Bible does teach the earth is about 6,000 years old. It says Adam was the first man, and he lived 130 years and had a son, and that boy lived 105 and he lived 90. You can make a chart and graph it out, like many people have seen my chart. And it clearly comes to about 4,000 BC for the creation. And then 16 or 1700 years later, a big flood in the days of Noah. So the textbooks, though, teach the kids the earth is 4.543 billion years old. Somebody is seriously wrong on their math. Is it 6,000 or 4.543 billion years old? And 6 weeks since I got the slide. Okay. So textbook says earth is thought to have formed 4.6 billion years ago. Jesus said the creation of Adam was the beginning. So was he lying? Did he not understand science? Or could it even possibly be that he was right? Now, the topic of the debate tonight is the meaning of this word evolution. And I think this is where all the confusion comes in. What does that word evolution mean? The textbook says life too has evolved on earth. Wait. What does this word evolve mean? And I spell out, and you asked if we could discuss the meaning of the word evolution. I break it up into 6 categories, and so does the internet, and so do the textbooks. The first one is cosmic evolution, the origin of time, space, matter. Where did time, space, and matter come from? Before you can have any evolution from an amoeba to a whale, you have to have space for this to happen in. You have to have matter, and you have to have time. You guys want to start the clock, time, at about 13.7 billion years ago. Well, what was before that? Or was there a before that? Where did time come from? Who created time? Who's created space? Who created matter? The textbooks and the internet certainly talk a lot about cosmic evolution, why cosmic evolution matters. There's an article, Cosmic Evolution from Big Bang to Humankind. This is certainly part of the evolution theory, the Big Bang where nothing exploded and produced time, space, matter, according to the theory. Access this today. What is the theory of cosmic evolution? Simply defined, this is from physicalcentral.com. Cosmic evolution is the study of change, the vast number of developmental and generative changes that have accumulated during all time and across all space, from Big Bang to humankind. So there is such a thing as cosmic evolution. Secondly, there would have to be what we call chemical evolution. All the elements would have to arise from the so-called hydrogen gas that came from this Big Bang. A third theory of life's origin is known as chemical evolution. In this idea, pre-biological changes slowly transform simple atoms and molecules into the more complex chemicals needed to produce. How do you get from, there's no such thing, by the way, as a simple molecule, but how do you get from a single, like hydrogen, to uranium or platinum or gold or silver? Man, if you can turn hydrogen gas into gold or silver, I'd like to know how to do that. I think a lot of people would love to do it. I think all the alchemists in the 13th century tried that. There's access today. Chemical evolution, the formation of complex organic molecules from simpler inorganic molecules through chemical reactions, from dictionary.com. Oh, the internet is full of it. You can just Google chemical evolution. You get thousands and thousands of results from that, okay? So according to the Big Bang theory, the Big Bang produced hydrogen gas and maybe a little bit of helium and maybe some lithium or deuterium. And then how do you get this to evolve? Where's the energy coming from to change this into the higher elements? There's a real problem. You can't fuse past iron. I think people that understand the fusion of lower chemicals to higher elements realize this can't happen without way more input than you get for your results. So it's just, I think chemical evolution is a giant stumbling block for those who believe in evolution. That's why they want to skip over all of this and go straight to once life gets started. They're very embarrassed because they cannot explain the first 3. I think the first 4. Number 3, stellar and planetary evolution. Obviously, we're all standing or sitting on a large planet called Earth, about 8,000 miles in diameter, 7926, depending if you're equatorial or polar. But it bulges a little bit at the equator, so do I, but that's a different story. Stellar and planetary evolution. How did the stars and planets get here? Nobody's ever seen a star form, but the internet is full, and so are the textbooks. I've got them all behind me here. Earth science and physical science textbooks talk about stellar evolution, the process by which a star changes over the course of time, depending on the mass of the star. Stellar evolution. Fuel consumption stages and their finality is important because it's responsible for the production of most of the elements after helium and hydrogen. Really? So this was accessed a few months ago, or last month. They do indeed teach stellar evolution. And yet those who are experts in science will say, we don't know how a single star managed to form. How did the stars form? Nobody has a clue. Why do stars evolve? Western Michigan University. Short answer is because changes in a star's core, where fusion is occurring, must result in changes throughout the rest of the star, including the surface. That's not an answer. That's a theory. That's a story. Stellar evolution. You can just Google that. They talk about the life cycle of stars, starting from a stellar nebula and slowly either turning into an average star or a massive star. The internet is full of this, and so is the text. That's my objection. This isn't science. We've never seen any star evolving into anything else. We've certainly never seen the production of a star out of a gas cloud. The origin of stars is one of the most fundamental unsolved problems of contemporary physics. Stars are born out of the gravitational collapse of cool, dense molecular clouds. You tell the author of this one at swin.edu.au, I think they're either stupid or lying. Nobody has ever seen a cloud of dust or gas accumulate into a solid. You're a mechanical engineer, so was my dad and brother. Gas clouds expand. You have to contain them in containers. They don't collect automatically. They don't have any gravitational attraction to collect into a solid. This is absolutely physically impossible. It doesn't happen. But they claim it did a whole bunch of times because there's a lot of stars out there. Everybody on Earth could own 11 trillion of them to yourself. Stars are formed in giant gas clouds of dust and gas. This is simply a lie, or somebody's extremely stupid about mechanics. Gases, there's Boyle's gas laws. You cannot squeeze those into a solid without enormous input. It's hard to compress gases and to make just a liquid. Check liquid nitrogen, see what they got to do. No one understands how star formation proceeds. It's really remarkable, Scientific American said years ago. But we see stars blow up, nova or supernova. That happens quite often. That's been seen many times, okay? How many stars are there in the universe? Well, you can Google that and say 70 billion trillion, that is 70 sextillion stars is the current estimate of stars visible from Earth with our current telescopes. And I guess enough stuff to go for 4 days on that one. The Bible claims very clearly that God simply made the stars, and he did it on day 4, which would be after the Earth was made. This exact opposite order of what the evolution theory teaches. And God told Abraham, look to the stars. If you can count the stars, you'll be able to count your offspring and descendants. And all the Jews and Arabs and several other nations over there are descendants of good old Father Abraham. Current estimate is 70 sextillion stars, they say maybe 3 times more than that, are in the observable universe. That's enough for everybody to own 11 trillion to themselves. That means if there are 70 sextillion stars and the universe has been here 13 billion years, you do the math, we should see 9.7 million new stars forming every minute. Every minute should be 9.7 million new stars. Now, the atheist's obvious way out of this is to say, well, it all happened already before we got here. So we're not here to observe it because it happened before we got here. That's seconds. Real convenient. My point is this is not science. This is something somebody believes in. Number 4 is organic evolution. We lost our slide there, James. Are you still on screen there?
Yep, I still see you.
But does everybody see the slides?
Yeah, I definitely see your
Does
slides.
Everybody in the audience see the slides? I know you see them. Does everybody else see them is the question.
I'm looking at the...
Something changed. Okay. Anyway, organic evolution is the origin of life. Those of you who would like to believe in this evolution religion have to somehow find a way for non-living material to come alive. The theories of organic evolution explains convincing the origin of life.
And
it also explains how the...
Forgive me. That was 10 minutes. So if you
guys... he gave me some of his minutes, though, didn't he?
Oh, I think
I want that to go into discussion. I've heard all this evolution stuff before, too. We'll talk about the evolution of cars, the evolution of square wheels to round wheels.
Okay.
The word evolution can be put in front of anything and can be made an argument for it.
right.
So I guess it would be my turn to answer him. So, for one thing, if you want to go see stars being born, go to the baby boom cluster. They're showing that many stars are being formed there. I forget what the number was. I believe it was around 30 a day they're watching, and it's called the baby boom cluster. Right there, you'll see some stars being made. How did we end up with things over iron? That's just obvious. It would be the Big Bang Theory would tell us exactly what we see on Earth. We would expect there to be a lot of iron. We'd expect a lot of stuff to be fused up to the point of iron. And then we'd expect the rest of the stuff to be much harder to find. Much less of it we would find on Earth. And that's exactly what we find. We find lots and lots of iron. Our center core is made out of iron, tons of iron. Lots of stars forming, lots of iron being produced. You get into your supernovas, you get into things exploding. That's where you get your heavy elements. We know this. We've been through this. We've understood this now for, I believe, almost 100 years. I'm not sure why the creationists don't know it. What were some of your other evolution stuff there? You had a simple molecule. I've heard you talk about this before, Kent, how there's no such thing as a simple molecule, that that the single cell is more complex than a space shuttle. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'm a machinist. I worked on one of the valves with a company out of Fort Erie called Aerosafe. And we made a valve it was a hydraulic valve that worked for the landing gear. It worked for a bunch of the hydraulic systems. And when we were done building that part and putting all the coordinates that were needed in telling those tools where to go to drill those holes on a 5-axis machine, we almost took up a terabyte of information. So that is, if you want to look at information as complexity, that is telling the tool where to go, how fast the tool's to travel, how deep it's to cut into the material, where it's to cut in, where it's to tap the thread, what the pitch of the thread will be. And that was up in the terabytes. We know that we can fit the whole genome of a human being on a 750 megabyte CD-ROM. I'm not a computer guy, but I think that's about what they are. And I've been told that you can easily fit our entire genome onto a single CD-ROM. Kent, I'll let you go from there, because there's just so much stuff here that, like I said, flies in the face of what we know. So go at it again for a little bit, and then let's try to get more into a one-on-one. There's a lot of stuff that I missed here. Yeah, you had the simple molecule, you had the energy coming in. The Big Bang Theory is very solid. I really don't know where there's confusion in the Big Bang Theory. If we want to move that over towards the claim that you have, that the evolutionists are always trying to push time and get more time for their prince to turn, or their frog to turn into a prince, nothing could be further from the truth. You tell us it's 20 billion years that scientists say since the Big Bang, and actually we're closer to the 13, 14 billion years. So we're continuing to take time away, Ken. We're not asking for more time. And then when it comes to anything beyond simple life, just give us 750 million years. We don't need billions. We had simple single-celled life up to 700 million years ago. That's when we say that life really started to take hold and start crawling out of the ocean, starting to build the trees. Yeah, that's when complexity started, 750 million years ago. We don't need the 12 billion years. Tell you what, you can have 11 billion of those years back, and we're still good with building the life that we have on Earth today, in its complexity and its variation. Go ahead.
Okay, you said you made hydraulic valves and it took a terabyte of information. Is there any possibility that those valves could have made themselves without intelligent input? A terabyte's a lot of information.
Oh yeah, it's huge, and it's a lot of coordinates, and that's what I'm saying. That space shuttle is an extremely complex piece of machinery with a lot of coordinates. So if you just look at it on the point of how much information is needed to build something in the world of machining, when you get down into machining things to a tenth of a thou, like a lot of the stuff was on the space shuttle, you're talking huge amounts of information. So I would completely disagree that the space shuttle is less complex than a single cell. To me, a single cell is a bunch of chemicals. It's a bunch of chemicals put together in different ways. I understand that we assign letters to those to those chemicals, but I do not see it as completely impossible as what you do.
Well, I guess I'm asking, could the valves that you build for the hydraulics on the space shuttle, could they have possibly happened by chance, or did it take some intelligent input?
Oh, absolutely. It takes intelligent input. Yes, absolutely, Kent. But I don't know where you're going to go with on that one. Well, I know exactly where you're going to go. I've heard it before.
You don't think there's intelligent input on making a cell?
No, absolutely not. No, I don't think.
But there is intelligent input on making. So, do you believe the valves on the space shuttle hydraulic were designed by somebody with some level of intelligence? Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Do you think the whole space shuttle was designed with by some intelligent people?
Absolutely. I don't think there's anyone that's going to disagree with that.
Okay.
We see it every day.
Do you think your brain was designed by anybody with any intelligence?
Absolutely not.
You may be right on that one.
My mom and dad pulled her together. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, the DNA code to make the human brain, which is capable of holding a whole bunch of information, is unbelievably complex. Just because the code only can all fit on a CD-ROM, I don't know that that's true. It's interesting. I don't think we completely understand the DNA code because it's three-dimensional, and it not only three-dimensional, but just the loops, where it loops around and touches itself again, carries more information. All of our computer codes, I think nearly all of our computer codes, carry with just a 2-bit, plus minus or yes, no, on off switching of the binary code that all of our computer language is written in, yet DNA code is written in a 4-letter code, CATG, which makes it multiple levels of more complexity than simple binary code. So I have to disagree. I still would stick by my statement that a single cell in your body is more complex than the space shuttle. I think you would quickly agree that the space shuttle had to have a designer, but you don't think a cell had to have a designer. Do you think all the cells in your body and my body and all the animals in the world, all of that was fit into a dot smaller than a period on a page? Is that your position?
Oh, absolutely. We see it right now. We see it in black holes. We have no problems with singularities. We understand them completely. There's no problems with figuring out singularities. And if you actually think about it on the molecular level, think about how little matter is in an atom. There's nothing in it. 99.9998% at empty space. I think there's more zeros to throw in there, but yeah, I have absolutely no problems with compressing things down to that point. And you're not really talking compressing when you get to the singularity. There's a lot more to it than that. There's the temperatures, there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not as simple as just to say, will my Chevy van fit inside of a space as small as a dot on a page? That is just a dishonest way of looking at a very complex situation, which is what we get into when we talk about the singularity. But yes, we see it already. We know what goes on in a black hole, and your Chevy van would fit nicely in a black hole, and it would become smaller than a dot on a page. I guarantee it.
Well, years ago I heard that a mile-long freight train, just by removing the space in the atoms between the electrons, a mile-long freight train would probably fit in a thimble. That's used to be the illustration they would use. But you're saying all of the stars, all of the planets, all of the life forms on Earth were inside a singularity. Is that your position?
Yeah, I have no problems with that at all. Absolutely no problems with it. We know exactly what would happen. We know that as far as we know, there's no limit to the amount of energy that we can put into a system. The only time that the math starts to break down is when we get to the Planck frequency, which is the maximum theoretical amount of energy that you can put into a space. But yeah, nothing starts to break down. That's where we're fitting God in a lot of times, is where the math starts to break down when we get into very complex mathematical situations. But trying to visualize a Chevy van fitting into a dot on a period of a page, of course it's not intuitive, but we're not talking about standard atmospheric conditions here on Earth, where we're dealing with the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, and gravity. We're talking about gravity here beyond anything that anyone could imagine, and that is what we see right now in a black hole. So yes, you take even more matter and put it into a black hole, you're even going to get more of a dense spot. I have absolutely no problems envisioning singularity, and I don't think science has any problems with it anymore whatsoever either.
When you say that's what you see in a black hole, has anybody ever seen? Do you see?
No, we don't fly around and go into black holes, but we know what's going on. We know light can't get out, and we have a pretty good idea what's going on in there. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's actually figured out exactly. I know no one's been in one, that's for sure, because you get into one, you're not getting out.
Hold on, I thought we all came from one. We all did get out.
Well, something happened, didn't it? Something pushed time forward and caused the irradiation to do exactly what it did, and here we are today. And yes, I know we're supposed to get into evolution here, but I guess we needed somewhere to put the animals first, didn't we?
Well, yes. So all of the matter in the universe, in your, and it is a religion, in your religion, all of the matter in the universe was in this black hole, and all of the energy. How much total energy would there be? What's the total? You're an engineer. What would the total number of joules be of all the universe, all the stars, everything?
Well, like I said, it doesn't matter what it is, but we know there's no limit to the amount of energy that we can put into a system. That's just a fact. We know that. So whatever the number ends up being is what the number ends up being. All that eventually starts to happen is as the temperature goes up, the frequency goes up, and you get the Planck length of a frequency. So that will be where the math will start to break down, is when we get to the point where the energy is so high in frequency that the math will start to break down. That is the only point and that is where, unfortunately, the young Earth creationists always try to slide their gods in, is when our math breaks down, when our understanding breaks down, and you're always trying to fit these gods into these areas that we don't understand. You did it thousands of years ago when a man would come home and find out that his wife, children, babies, everybody was dead. It must have been something that he did wrong. No, it was a virus. No, it was a plague. It was a parasite. It was whatever took out his family. We know that now. So now we no longer have gods that are punishing us for our day-to-day deeds by taking our families. We understand what's going on. It's the same as floods. It's the same as lightning. It's the same as when a monsoon comes through. We understand now where these things are coming from. Kent, there is absolutely no doubt that we still have work to do. You've heard this time and time again. I bet you I've heard every single one of your debates, and there is no doubt there's holes. We have a lot to work on. But at the same time, I just cannot stand the fact that, there's people like yourself. And when I say like yourself, I do say it with a bit of respect, because you are passionate about what you do. But you continue to look for these holes of things that we don't understand and think it's the I got you moment, and it's really not.
Okay, you have used the word we probably several hundred times already tonight. We know this, we know that, we see this. Would you agree that nobody has ever actually seen a black hole? You obviously, if no light is escaping, this is something nobody can see such a thing.
Oh no, we've seen things go in. Actually, I believe it was about 2 months ago, I heard that two black holes had joined up, and we got to see I forget what they called it, but it was something to do with the gravitational waves. We got to experience the gravitational waves from these two black holes combining. And from what I remember reading a little bit on the paper, it was almost exactly mathematically what they expected it to be. And it was by a complete fluke that we even ended up seeing it, because they built this machine to detect these gravitational waves, and they just had it on just by chance, both of them, because there's one on one side of the country and one on the other side. I'm taking this out of memory. It was just something I glazed over quickly. And it pretty much proved again that the scientific method worked perfectly. We predicted it, and it happened, and it was very close to the measurements that we had expected.
I guess I'd be real curious to see how you could see a gravitational wave.
Well, they measure them.
Measure it with what?
Well, they measured it with these huge machines that they built. Have you not seen these? Like, you got to check into this stuff, Kent. These people are working diligently to build these machines to further our knowledge, and that is the program that they're working on. Google it. These gravitational wave detectors that they've built. They've built one on one side of the country. They built one somewhere else. I don't know if it's in Canada. I don't know where it is, but these things are, I believe they're about 3 or 4 kilometers long, and they're just detecting the difference of the gravitational wave as it goes across this long, I don't even know what it is, could be a shaft. I don't pretend to know things that I don't know about, but when I see things that interest me, I read a little bit about it, just enough to say, oh, that was interesting. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. It just means that now you need to go Google it, look up these machines that they built. They're not machines, they're detectors, and you will see exactly how they measure gravitational waves. And yes, these waves are infinitely small, and they're so blown away that they could do it. And that's the part, Kent, that really bothers me about your worldview, is that this work that we, yes, it's we, the people who want to know, are looking into. We're finding these things and we're learning these things, and it's exciting. It's more exciting than anything that magic could ever give me.
Well, you can certainly include me in one of those who wants to know and wants to understand. I
Do
just
you,
have a hard
Kent? Do
time.
you really want to know?
I really do.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I really want to understand how you, as an animal behaviorist, can believe dogs, all the 339 recognized breeds of dogs in the world today, came from a single cell creature, like something like an amoeba. You do believe that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, Kent. And the funny thing is, I've heard you talking about dogs become dogs for so long that there is no better representation of dogs when it comes to evolution. Just look at your chart, Kent. We have dogs that weigh less than a pound, all the way up to dogs that weigh 250, 270 pounds. We have dogs that can specialize in smelling. We have dogs that specialize in swimming. We have dogs that specialize in running. You always talk about, if they want a faster horse, why don't they get a horse? You know, all we've been able to do is to get it to run 5 miles an hour faster, which is an incredible feat over 150 years or whatever they've done it. But right in your picture, right there, Kent, you've got dogs that can maybe run, what, 15 kilometers an hour all the way up to the ground. The greyhound, which is, I believe, is up around the 45, 50 mile an hour area. So there's a huge divergence in the gene pool right in front of you. So you're very dogs only produce dogs, which is wrong. It's wolves produce dogs. But it right there is evolution 101 if I've ever seen it. And I just don't know how you don't see it that way.
Well, I think I see it even more clearly than you do. You said there's dogs from 1 pound up to 270 pounds. I would agree.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll ever be able to crossbreed dogs and get a dog as up to 3 ton?
Well, why would they want to, though? What would be the natural? What would be the natural advantage for a dog that weighs 3 tons, unless you're trying to hold down a building in a windstorm? I just don't understand where a dog of 3 tons would make sense in the natural world. Do you understand what evolution is? Evolution is trying to exist in a way that works in nature. So where would a 3-ton dog, and next you're going to say, can we get one the size of a flea? Where would these dogs fit in? Where would their niche be? And what would be the advantage of a 3-ton, or was it 3 tons or 3,000? I don't even know what you said there, Ken. But yeah, I think it's usually the size of Texas. But yeah, in this case, a 3-ton dog has no purpose.
Well, I'm trying to get you to understand. There are 3-ton animals on the planet, like elephants.
Absolutely. And where are they?
So it is possible for an animal to weigh 3 tons.
But Ken, where are these 3-ton animals you're talking about? They're in the ocean.
No, there's elephants. I believe elephants get up to, they live on land.
Okay.
I don't know if the number's right. Let's just pick a number and say it's probably up to 6,000 pounds.
Okay.
Certainly. They're huge.
Absolutely.
And there have been bigger animals than that. There have been brachiosaurs and we find the bones of them. They probably weighed 100 tons.
Right.
So there are mammals and reptiles and land-dwelling animals that get up to 100 tons. So I'm trying to get you to see, is there a limit to dogs? Why can't they get a 700-pound dog? Don't ask me why do we need one. There are animals that weigh 700 pounds. There are animals that weigh 3 tons. There are animals that used to weigh 100 tons. So is there a limit to dogs? Is there something in the dog gene code that says you can go from 1 pound to 270, but you can't go beyond? Is there a limit at all?
Well, for example, you look at a dog, okay? So you're comparing let's say we'll go back to the elephant. The elephant stands on its feet flat. So an elephant has a completely different stand than what a dog does. A dog's a digigate, so it's up on its toes, it's standing. Where are you going to get to the point where those toes are going to hold up a 3-ton dog? Just like your 900-year-old man, at a certain point, just the way a dog is put together, it's not going to work. It's going to start to fail. The structure is just not made to be a 3,000-pound animal. And that's really all there is to it. It really is that simple, Kent. That foot that you're looking at there, if you look at that Great Dane, looking at that Chihuahua or whatever kind of dog that is its heel that's 6 inches up its back. That's why it has a dew claw there. It is up on its toes like a ballerina, and it would not make sense that dog would be able to hold much more weight than the 300 pounds that we see as a maximum level for dogs.
Well, two things. First of all, elephants do walk on their toes constantly. They have a large fat pad under their
different design though. Completely different design.
Whoa. Hold it. A different what?
Design? It's a different design. Absolutely a different design.
Is that a slip of the tongue? It's not a design then. It's by chance, right?
No, it's a design. Absolutely, it's a design. Nature designed it. Yeah.
Nature
I have no problems telling you design, Ken. I'll give you design all day long. Nature is a great designer of animals. It's been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, and it'll continue designing animals for us.
I'm sure you believe that. Well, so you said it's not going to work. It's going to fail if you get a dog up to a certain weight limit. So I'm going to try to interpret your answer for you to understand yourself. You're saying, and which I asked you at the beginning, is there a limit? And you are saying, yes, there is a limit to dog size.
The way the dog is put together right now, yes, I would say there's a limit. Just like with man, there's a limit to the amount of age that we can live to. We cannot live to 900 years. Impossible.
Well, probably not today.
Never.
Never. Okay.
Never.
But were there animals that got up to 100 tons like this guy?
Yes, absolutely.
So there wasn't a limit for the 100 tons then. I mean,
have you seen the bones in their legs?
Oh, yeah. I've got some replicas of them here. They're huge.
Absolutely. Right. So you got to think about what a dog did. Back in the day, a dog was a chaser. A dog had to be able to hunt down prey. It had to be able to go out and run fast. There was no advantage for it to weigh that way. So the body was put together very streamlined. It's put together very athletically. I know you continually put down small dogs as being useless, but they were even bred for a reason. They fit into small holes. They were able to go in. They were able to pull rabbits out of a hole. Dogs are a great example of evolution, Kent. Absolutely. One of the best examples we got. I would say the only thing that we even have close to the proof for evolution beyond dogs would be the cat species. It's also very diverse if you look at what we've done with cats.
Okay. Do you think animal breeders such as yourself will ever be able to get the dogs of any kind to produce something that would be considered a non-dog?
To consider to be a non-dog, how much time do you got, Kent? Because it's happening right now. I just read a story this morning on things called sea wolves. Yes, write that down. Sea wolves. They're out in BC. They are spending up to 90% of their day in the water. They are getting 75% of their food out of the oceans, and they're able to swim up to, I believe it said 7.5 miles from island to island. And this is how they have found a spot in nature that had an opening, and they're eking out a living doing exactly that. They are living in the ocean. Their bodies are changing, their noses are changing, their ears are changing, their tails are getting shorter, their feet are getting more webbed. And this they have been watching for the last 50 years. And that it was on a science paper. It went out today. I read it this morning.
Okay.
And they're calling it the sea wolf in BC.
I will certainly. It's British Columbia finding it?
British Columbia, Canada. Okay. Yes.
So this is a sea wolf. Is it still considered in the dog family? Canine?
Well, it's still considered in the dog family, but is the wolf in the dog family? Is the jackal in the dog family? Where are we going to draw the line? Because this is the dishonesty of the young Earth creationist view. You try to tell us what we say things are, and Kent, you know that we never say that a dog will produce a cat. You're not allowed to go back down the tree. And I want you to remember this in future debates. You are never allowed to go down the tree. You've got the roots, you got the trunk, you got the branches, you got the leaves, Kent. You can never have a leaf produce another leaf. It will only move forward from there. You cannot climb down the branch and up another branch and have a dog make a cat. That is absolutely impossible. So whatever the dog becomes in the future is what time will do to it. Look at how much it's changed in the last 10,000 years. That's how long we've been breeding dogs. We've done that in 10,000 years. I have 700 million years to produce what we have on Earth right now. And that's all I need. I don't need 12 billion. Never needed it.
Okay,
I'm
first of all, I think
surprised no one's called you out on that before, because we only need the 700 million that we've continually claimed. Look it up. That's when it really started to explode. That's when all the single cell turned into the complex stuff that we have now. That's where it all started up.
well, I think we could
Not
argue
12
about
billion years.
I don't think you can get 700 million either. I could go through geophysical reasons why that's not possible. The
I
Earth
can't think of
rolling is
one.
slowing its spin. Anyway, so you're
What's
never
the Earth
allowed to go
slowing
down
its
the
spin
tree.
have to do with anything, Ken?
It puts a time limit on how old the Earth can be. The Earth is slowing down
How much is it slowing down though?
about 1,000th of a second per day.
So where's our problem? For one thing, it's not linear. We know that. I've talked to you. I've
Right.
heard you
It
talk
makes it
about
worse when it's geometric. It makes it much worse, logarithmic.
why is that?
Well, any
Like
spinning
we
object,
know how old the universe is. So there's something wrong with your view, Kent. That's all that we can say about it. So
we don't
you're
know.
the one that has to tell us why we're wrong, that it's not almost 13 or 14 billion years old, this universe, and why the Earth isn't 4.54 and why the sun isn't 5 or 6 billion years old. You got to tell us why. You just can't say that because it's slowing down X, and that's just impossible.
Well,
There
that's
is nothing we see in nature that would give us a time limit that I've ever known about or ever looked into. And if you can tell me one, I'd be shocked.
Okay, well, my video number 1 covers about 50 of the scientific limits on the age of the Earth or the universe, but that's not the topic of this debate. So, did all the dogs in the world? You said they're always going to be dog, which is what I've said over and over. And I believe probably the dog, the wolf, and the coyote are in the same family and probably had a common ancestor on Noah's Ark. But I do not believe the dog is related to the amoeba or the banana or the whale, but you do.
If absolutely.
Okay, so if we start with a single cell creature, let's say it's an amoeba, did the amoeba eventually become a non-amoeba?
Did it eventually evolve to try to figure out a way to live on whatever substance it could find and eke out a living? Absolutely. Ken, what you don't realize, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, and a really good example is take, for example, the cheetah. The cheetah is running right around the 50-mile-an-hour area. So you've got cheetahs running at 50. We have the elk running at approximately 51 miles an hour. Well, not only are the cheetahs trying to get faster and the elk trying to get faster, but in the background, you've also got another group of elk that are getting shorter, and they're able to make a living and live by hiding in the grass. You've also got elk that are changing color, and they're being successful that way. There's not just one route that an animal or a species will take to try to make a living, to try to find a way to live. So it will not just be a balance where, a cat will get up to 51 miles an hour, the elk will get up to 52, so the 52-mile-an-hour elk will live. There's so much more going on in nature. Nature always tries to find a way, and that's where you end up with the different species. You don't just end up with one. So you will get one that's trying to run faster and faster, but you'll also get a species that's trying to get shorter and shorter, slower and slower, and its life is dependent on it being able to hide in the grass and just not getting pegged off as much by the cheetahs.
Well, instead of the cheetah slowly learning to run faster to catch the elk, why doesn't the cheetah learn to eat grass? The elk eats grass, and grass can't run very fast at all. It wouldn't have to run at all, just eat the grass.
Incredibly inefficient food source. Have you ever
the
watched
elk
the
do
cow?
fine on it. Elks are lots bigger than a cheetah, and they live on
And you know
plants.
what it does all day long? It eats all day, Ken. You watch a horse, it barely sleeps. Yeah, it may do fine, but Ken, that's something. Why don't you eat grass? You will have to stand out in a field all day and eat grass to get enough of what you need, and you will never get enough. Meat eaters are meat eaters, period. We need the proteins, we need the
Right.
the vitamins, we need the minerals, we need meat. That's all there is to it. That's how we know that animals have always ate meat. There's no way that they were ever vegetarians. That's just not even a
Well, now
possibility.
hold it. Would you agree that elephants are pretty big and they live on vegetation?
And that's all they do all day, Kent. They eat.
Is that
That's
bad?
all they do. They eat and they move slow. So you got to decide what you're going to do. If you want to drive around in a Dodge K car going 2 miles an hour, guess what? You don't have to put very much gas in it. If you want to be an active lion, tiger, anything that moves at a reasonable speed and doesn't want to spend its whole day eating, you better figure out a food source that has a hell of a lot more protein in it and a way to get that protein fast, eat, get it done, and get on with life.
Well, there are some huge animals in the sea and on land, like really huge, that live on pure plant life. So
all
it
they
can
do,
be
Ken.
done.
That
What's
is
that?
all they do. That is all they do. They eat. That
All
is
they
their
do is
life.
eat.
Watch a horse.
I think elephants can run pretty fast, and I don't think that's all they do. There are baby elephants out there, they must be doing something somewhere.
They
So
eat.
that's it.
Not a word
That's
of a lie. I'm not making this up, Ken. They really do. Horses eat all day. Cows eat all day. It's a very inefficient way to eat. It's a very inefficient way to get the food that you need. And so guess what? The lions, us, all the smarter animals, we'll let those guys go out there. We'll let them eat all day, and then we'll eat them and get all the advantage of the thousands and thousands of hours of eating that they did to get that body mass up, get the protein and the minerals and vitamins into their body, and then we'll eat them in 5 minutes and get on with our day. And that is really honestly it.
Right. Now, you're aware of the lion that was named Little Tyke, they used in movies quite a bit, that never would eat meat, refused to eat meat, lived on plants.
How long did it live?
Finally got killed in a movie accident, I think. A full-grown lion, African lion. Just type in Little Tyke, Tyke. There's an article on creation.com about it. It's been studied intently. They said it refused to eat any kind of meat or even blood. They tried as a baby to give it a little bit of blood in the milk, wouldn't take it. Grew to be huge, I think 11 feet long. But that's not the point. Elephants are bigger than that. Okay, so all the elephants and all the tigers and all the cheetahs were in a dot that exploded. And over millions of years, somewhere along the line, because I say dogs produce dogs, and you guys get mad at me for saying that, but it's the obvious truth. But somewhere, if you go backwards in time, if you run the clock backwards, when was the dog a non-dog? Where's the 95? Huh?
When it was a wolf.
Okay, let's put dog, wolf, coyote in the same group. When was that family not in the dog category or wolf category? Where's the 95%?
Well, Ken,
dog or wolf?
Pull up the pictures of your dog again and show me 100% dog. Which one's 100%? Which one's 95? They're all changing. They're all becoming different dogs. Which one's 100% a dog?
I'd say
I know you don't think
those.
I know you don't
dog.
think a child's 100% dog because you think it's useless. So tell me where I know you don't like little dogs. So there you go. You tell me right there that that's not 100% dog. And I bet you think that Great Dane's 100% dog. What is 100% of anything? What is 100% of a primate? Monkeys are 100% primate, and so are we. I really don't know where you're going with this. To try to put these abstract numbers onto something and say something that can be 100% this or 100% that, it's really not the way that it works. Obviously, a dog is a dog. We're looking at two dogs here. They have every single thing that each dog has. They both have. It doesn't matter their size. So I'm not, again, sure what you're getting at.
Well, I agree. They're both 100% dog. I do think probably useless, but that's just a joke mostly, okay? But they are technically interfertile. Might be a few mechanical problems, but the Chihuahua could impregnate the Great Dane if she cooperated, or the other way around, might kill the Chihuahua, but they have the same number of chromosomes. They're still dog. And I think everybody would agree that nearly all of the dog varieties we have in the world today probably did not exist 500 years ago. They were created for man's pleasure, either for hunting or lap dogs or something like that, or guard dogs. A trait was selected that was already in the gene code. It's already in the gene code to have dogs have sensitive smell. So they would focus on that to get tracking bloodhounds. Okay, they're still a dog. They didn't create a Geiger counter in the thing. It still only has a sense of smell, but they focused by selective breeding, selected a dog with a better sense of smell. I can understand. But there are limits to this. This is what you guys refuse to admit. There are limits to the size of the dog. There are limits to the age a dog's going to live. There are limits to the sensitivity of its smell. Let's say, I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say a bloodhound can smell 1 molecule per 20,000. Okay. Okay, there's probably the limit. I don't think they're going to get much better than that. Maybe you can get a dog like a greyhound that can run, say, 45 miles an hour. Okay. Could they get one to run 200 miles an hour? There are animals like the hawk that can go 200 miles an hour. Why don't we get a dog to go 200?
Well, in a dive, but okay. So here we go again. So I guess what you're saying is that we never see anything. We don't see things getting more complex. We see them getting simpler. Is that what you're basically getting at here?
No, I'm saying we don't see them getting new information.
New information. Okay. So here we go, Ken. If that was the case, you know what we'd be doing? We'd all be walking wolves down the street. So why aren't we using wolves to track? Why aren't we using wolves to sniff things out? Why aren't we using wolves to go out and if there's no new information, if these dogs that are known as sniffing dogs, why aren't we using wolves? Why didn't we just breed them once for friendliness and just use a wolf for everything? And by the way, a wolf can only run at about 20 miles an hour. So a greyhound has it by almost 2.5 times.
Right. Question. Greyhound has it by 2.5 times. That has been selectively bred for speed. If you turned all the greyhounds in the world loose into the woods, would they survive?
Would we?
Would the greyhounds survive in the wild, or do they have to be babysat by a human to keep them alive?
4 minutes. 4 minutes until Q&A.
Okay. So would we, Ken?
Would we?
I want to go so far beyond this. Let's give up on dogs. Ken, you're loose. We're taking you to South America. We're throwing you in the bush. Are you going to survive?
No, not very long.
Exactly. So I really don't understand what this is, what you're getting at, because monkeys do just fine in the bush. We don't. We have evolved to the point where we are, where we had to learn how to build fires. We had to learn how to build clothes. We had to learn how to build tools. We evolved to the point where we can no longer actually just go live in a bush. And that's the other thing. I always hear creationists talk that man is this refined species. We don't look like a monkey. What do you think would happen, Kent, if your wife decided to stop shaving her armpits, her legs, and you stop shaving and let your hair grow? We are not the way we look. We are apes. And if we left our hair alone, and if we didn't cut it, just like apes don't cut their hair, it's not that hard to see us as an ape. The only thing that makes it hard is because, yeah, we get dressed up, we cut our hair, we shave, we do these things, but man is not as evolved. Actually, if you want to go into the word evolution, we've pretty much got ourselves to the point where we are a useless animal. If we weren't living the way we live, we would not do well in nature at all anymore. We would do terribly.
Well, are there people in the bush who do just fine and can survive in the bush?
Yeah, they don't have very good lives, though, do they?
But there are humans who, I don't think a wolf has a very good life either. He's got to chase food all day long.
But that's not me and you. That is not me and you. I'm telling you, Kent, if I go down to Florida and drink water, I get sick off of it. That's how weak we've made ourselves. These bush people are completely different. I think you'll agree. They got stronger immune systems. They're continually exposed to things that we're not exposed to. And yeah, don't go to Mexico and drink the water, but the people in Mexico can drink it just fine. When I say that when we look at ourselves, I'm talking about, first world countries. People like me and you that have become so delicate when it comes to temperature. We've become delicate when it comes to food. Man back in the day used to eat raw food.
Well, there are people who can live in the bush. You're right. We've become very soft, and we would still be interfertile with those people in the bush. We would still be the same kind. It's called mankind.
Right.
We are not interfertile with apes of any kind. Stalin tried that to breed. What?
How do we know that?
Stalin tried to breed super warriors by getting
no,
humans.
that's not true. That's very hearsay. We don't know what really happened there. And yeah, I'd be careful saying that it can't be done, because genetically we're very close to the bonobo. We have lots of apes that are very close, and genetic science says that there are some that we could possibly take, but that's not even somewhere that I want to go. That's a very risque topic, and I don't think we want to go down that road. But believe me, I would not be surprised if on paper, they figure out that we could breed with. We're very close to some of the ape species, Kent. We're very close.
First of all, I will go on record as saying it is not possible for the apes and the humans to interbreed. Secondly, there are differences between apes and humans. We have more than just a body. We have a consciousness of life way beyond what the apes have. We have a consciousness of an afterlife.
So do elephants. So do elephants. They go back and visit their dead.
Well, you wanted to have a moment of silence for Bill Ludlow, who I debated.
Absolutely.
Why?
Out of respect. It gave me time to reflect.
If he's dead, he's gone. What difference? He's nothing but rotting meat now.
No, absolutely not. Bill's left behind a great legacy. Bill has done a lot of great things for science. Bill was a very passionate man about teaching children about the natural world around us and what's going on. Bill was a great man. I was not praying to a god, Kent. I was giving him, like I said when I came on, I said, it's funny, what popped into my head was the debate between you and Bill Ludlow. It wasn't a religious moment for me. It was a moment where I could reflect on what Bill has done. And that's why I wanted that. That's why I wanted a moment of silence for Bill, just to be able to reflect on his life. And I think he had a very good life, very prosperous life, and I think he did a lot of great things.
Well, he may have. He also did an enormous amount of damage by teaching children that you're just an animal and evolution is true. He taught a lot of lies.
How's that damaging? How does that damage anything?
It's not true. You're not just an animal.
You can't just say that. And yes, we are animals. In every sense of the word animal, we are an animal. You start checking off the boxes for animal, we're every single one of them. We have every single body system. We have every bone. We have, what point do we not become animals? Like I said, you don't shave your legs as a woman, don't shave your armpits. We would very much start looking like animals, that we would start to look like our ape cousins. We really would.
I haven't shaved my legs ever.
Well, hopefully your wife has. Unless you live in Canada. That's what we do up here to stay warm.
They don't look too bad.
All right. With that.
Much different than
that's
anyway.
I honestly, James, I feel like I only touched 1% of the things that I got papers everywhere on things that I wanted to go over with Kent. So I'm really hoping that he'll indulge in moving this forward, if that's what your audience.
Let's do another one. But why don't you come down to Lennox? It's 70 degrees down here.
You know we are, Kent. I already told my wife that I'd bring her down to meet you, and we'd tour around your little compound there.
It's not a compound, and it's not little. It's 140 acres, and it's a science center. Go ahead.
Kent. We're in Canada. Our provinces make Texas look like we don't talk big when we're talking states. Ontario's twice the size of Texas, so you're a little 150.
About 10% of the people.
But I'd love to talk to you more, Kent.
Sure.
Yeah, and we will be coming down to see you. And okay. So we can get on with the question and answer period here and see what they got for us.
Excellent. Very excited to read these questions. So we appreciate all of your questions, folks. Starting off with the super chats, we appreciate it. Frank's92. Thanks for your super chat. He said, "Rest in peace, Bill Ludlow." Well, we agree with you there. And for those of you who haven't heard, I saw some people in the live chat. Sorry, I usually feel like social media is not a good way to find out. Ideally it can be somebody you know and in person. But if you haven't heard, Bill Ludlow has passed away. So we are, we hope his family knows that our hearts go out to them. That's really hard. And as well as his friends, we hope they know that our hearts go out to them. So Tez, this looks like a new gentleman or lady. Tez Stickel, thanks for your super chat. They said, "Kent, can you demonstrate to us that you understand what evolutionists mean when they say we, quote, share a common ancestor with other primates?"
Sure, I can demonstrate very clearly. That shows that they have enormous faith way beyond the scientific observation. The scientific observation, which is what science is supposed to be, observable, testable, demonstrable, is that apes produce apes, chimpanzees produce chimpanzees, monkeys produce monkeys, orangutans produce orangutans. They don't mate with each other. They certainly don't mate with humans. We are a different kind. It's actually called mankind. We are very different. We're not part of the ape family. Though I taught school 15 years, I had a few students that made me wonder a few times. But no, they're not interfertile. We are not the same number of chromosomes. And the length of the chromosomes is different. There are millions of differences between humans and all of the apes. You ought to look for similarities. I suppose you can. If you want to be related to them, you can. You can pretend that you are. But science deals with things we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. All the observation says humans produce more humans and apes produce more apes. They don't crossbreed. Monkeys, I used to raise squirrel monkeys. They don't produce anything but squirrel monkeys. That's it. End of story. So if you wish to believe that long ago and far away we diverged from a common ancestor, you're welcome to believe that, but that's part of a religion that is not part of science at all. I understand real well what they think they know, okay?
Gotcha.
James, give me 2 seconds there. And if you take what Kent's saying about just look into our fuse genes, that's all you got to do. And it's pretty much the nail in the coffin when you've got telomeres in the center and centromeres on the end. We know exactly what's going on. Don't take my word for it. Look it up, Google it, and you'll see. Shows our ancestry from ape, and it's really is the last nail in the coffin for it.
Gotcha. Thanks for your responses. I hate cutting you off just to be sure we don't go down a rabbit hole. We got a lot of questions, so we'll keep them short and pithy. Gosh, Steven Steen, you're sick. He's our friendly, benevolent troll. If you haven't met Steven, he says Mark thinks he's an expert animal tamer, but there's no way to tame the stunning stallion and majestic beast that is James. Well, that's very sweet. Thank you. Mothra J Disco, thanks for your super chat. They said, Kent, will you debate Robert Beatty on structuring because you've been avoiding it for years now, or are you... Oh, I think it's... Oh, they had a emoticon of a chicken. And then they said, rest in peace, Bill... They said, rest in power, Bill Ludlow. I don't know if there's a... But anyway, so... Rest in peace, Bill Ludlow and Kent. I don't know who Robert Beatty is, but I guess that it's a person that wants a piece of you.
Robert Beatty is a former IRS agent that they called out just to hassle me. He had three followers until he started picking on Kent Hovind. He jumped up to 80 followers. He is a legend in his own mind. I know I won't debate him on structuring. This is unrelated to anything about creation evolution. I did not break the structuring law. There's the whole website, KentHovinIsInnocent.com. Video number 3 goes for an hour and a half from a paralegal on that topic. I did not break any structuring laws, but they did give me 10 years in prison for it, and we're still going to fight that until I die. We're going to win. No, I wouldn't give Robert Beatty the time of day. He's not interested in truth at all. Robert, go away.
Gosh, yeah, okay. All right, thank you very much. Roy Lindsay, thanks for your super chat. He says, every Kent debate turns into the other debater teaching Kent basic science. I believe Kent has no interest in truth and is intentionally dishonest. Oh, snap. Kent, you have a chance to respond to that.
Well, what basic science, I think I understand basic science really well. What is there to observe? Science deals with observations. Okay. Would your friend whoever did this question, would they like to have a debate with me? Call 855-BIG-DINO, extension 2. That's Rhonda, the secretary, and schedule it. I'll be glad to. I'll debate anybody on the topic of creation evolution. It's not science. It's a poison mixed in with our science books, but it's not science. Nothing scientific about it. Nobody's ever seen any animal produce a different kind of animal. They imagine that it happened long ago and far away. But what do you mean teaching me basic science? What would he like to teach me? Tell him, go ahead, schedule a debate. We'll take him on next. James, get his number. You call him. You host most of the debates here, so have another one tomorrow.
If I could just touch on that, what I would like to do, Ken, is I'd like you to learn the word of what science even means, because Darwin's theory of evolution has been considered one of the most enlightening things that man has figured out. I forget the exact words that they used, but his realization of what we got going on here with the divergence of animals is considered one of the biggest scientific discoveries of all time. So if that's not science, I don't know what is. I'm sure you don't know what is, because that is not science. Well, Darwin never I'm just telling you what he's considered. His okay. Insight into the evolution of man and animals was considered one of the I would consider Darwin a moron. He thought all animals had a common ancestor. That is simply not true. I would say probably all the dogs have a common ancestor, a dog or wolf-like animal. That is not proof that dogs and mosquitoes are related. Yes, yeah, they are. That's part 2. Well, you can believe that if you want. But the word science comes from the Latin word, seer, which means to know.
What do we know? We know
Lots.
dogs produce dogs. We do not know that dogs and mosquitoes are related.
We
Gotcha. One
absolutely
second.
do.
Forgive
It's
me.
called
You may
genetics.
believe that if you want.
Just to kind of keep us
Genetics.
moving through. So
Absolutely,
sorry about
James.
that.
Keep
So
them rolling.
we have
Absolutely. That. Okay. Go ahead.
we've got Mothra J Disco. Looks like we've got Roy Lindsay. You heard it. Kent has offered a debate. He a challenge to debate Mothra J Disco. I have a feeling you might get a challenge as well. Mothra J Disco. He's coming at you, Kent. He says, Kent, you don't understand evolution. Be honest.
I completely understand what they teach. I don't believe it. Evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion ever invented in the history of humanity. Nobody's ever seen any animal produce a different kind of animal. All we've ever seen are cows produce cows, dogs produce dogs. There are no exceptions. No farmer in the history of the world or clear across anywhere on the world will tell you they've ever seen anything different. Now, if you wish to imagine SpongeBob style that dogs and bananas and wolves are related, you're welcome to imagine all you want, but that's not science. Science deals with things we can observe, study, and test and demonstrate. All observations show us, sure, you can get a lot of varieties like Great Dane and Chihuahua, but they're still dog. And there's a limit. You're never going to get a dog as small as a flea or a dog as big as Texas. There are limits. There are limits to the sense of smell. There are limits to the speed. There are limits to the bone structure. But there are animals as small as a flea, like a flea. So it is possible, and there are animals as big as an elephant. I completely understand what evolution teaches. I don't believe it for 1 second. I think it's the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the world.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Fifth Element, thanks for your super chat. They said, Kent, explain why Planck time is important. And hopefully I'm spelling or pronouncing it right. I think it's after Planck, maybe not. I think
it's Planck. That's right. Planck time.
And they say
depends where you are, but it's Planck. Yep, you're okay with that.
And they say, and please do so in detail without one of your typical. Oh, they're coming at you, Kent. They said without one of your typical ridiculous comments. So Kent, you can give a response to that.
Are they asking for why we need billions of years? I think we could show that there's lots of limits to say the universe cannot be billions of years old. We certainly can show that there's no evidence of any animal, of any matter creating itself out of nothing. So where'd all this matter come from? There's a whole lot of matter in the universe. I think the idea that that was all squeezed in a dot is extremely stupid, but if you wish to believe that, that's fine. But I would resent paying for that to be taught in science as a science class. That's part of a religion class. Long ago and far away, boys and girls. It's fairy tale stuff. So I guess have them refine the question. Are they asking, how would I explain billions of years? It doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
So anyways, Planck time, Planck frequency, Planck anything is the point in which the mathematics start to break down. We cannot go any further than that with math, and it is just the point where the mathematics start to break down and we start to get numbers that don't make sense, and that is where we're fitting God in. So Kent, your proper answer would have been that is where I can fit God in, is in this this moment.
No, that is where you are fitting evolution in.
Not at all.
Okay.
Wait, 1 sec. So sorry, just before we go on another Rage
Part
Pro.
2.
Rage Pro, that's right. If you guys want to come back, we'd be happy to have you both. You guys have both been really pleasant. So Rage Pro, thanks for your super chat. He's coming at you, Kent. He says, does your worldview recognize bears are related to dogs?
Does my worldview recognize bears? No, bears are, it depends what you mean by related. Do they both have hair? Well, yeah. Do they both have, 2 eyes? Sure. But there's obviously bears and dogs are not interfertile. I think anybody who studies animals will tell you bears are a different variety than dogs or different. So no, I don't think bears and dogs are related. I think all animals and all plants were created by the same creator. Is the Chevy van and the Chevy pickup truck related? They're both made by Chevy. How do you define the word related? What do you mean related? No, bears always produce bears without exception. Dogs always produce dogs without exception. We cannot prove that bears and dogs have a common ancestor. He's welcome to believe that if he'd like, but that would be a religious belief, not scientifically observable.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Next, Sigifredo Sarabia is in the house. Good to see you. They had a super chat. Thanks for that. They said, I could never tell if Sigifredo is trolling me or not. Sometimes it's hard to understand. says, how did chicken evolve to be so delicious, and what features aided this predator in survival? What about a fainting goat or magic carp? I think he's being for real. It's a little mix of trolling, but I think he means like fainting goat. Like, why would that be adaptive? Like, why would that be a successful strategy for
It's a
passing?
genetic recession. It's not something that is successful. It's a problem. It's just like with human beings when we have epilepsy. It's a problem. It's a recessive gene, and unfortunately, because we did not have a creator, nature took over. We have a very imperfect replication system that sometimes makes mistakes. And exactly that, you get fainting goats, you get problems, you get people with epilepsy, you get people with these different problems that are, because things did not replicate properly. As far as why does the chicken taste so good, I have no idea, but they do taste good, I'll give them that. But I myself would have went with beef.
Gotcha. Really quick, we've got a few more. Thanks so much, Subtracted, for your super chat. They said, Kent, why do humans and chimps share the FOXP2 gene?
I would say they have the same designer. Why do Chevy Fords and Chevy vans and Chevy trucks have the same lug nuts fit on both of them? Aha. Proof. They evolved from a skateboard.
Gotcha.
No, the same designer make them. I think God used the same design basic pattern. Number one, we have, the basic proteins in all the different animals, 20 different amino acids in the proteins as a general rule. And so that we could eat each other, the cow can eat the green grass and make the white milk, and I can churn it, make the yellow butter, and get the blonde hair. So the fact that we have the similar gene structure or similarities would not be proof of common ancestor, but proof of common designer. However, let me point this one point out. I'm not demanding that everybody pay for my thinking about the designer to be taught in the schools. You guys are demanding that we all pay for your religion to be taught in the schools with exclusivity. We're not allowed to teach the kids. Might be a creator. Oh, you can't do that. But it's okay to teach them to evolve. It's a religion. I think it's absolutely evil that they're doing that.
I'm always really quick, James. I'll tell you one thing. I'm 51 years old, and as a child, I said the Lord's Prayer every morning in school. We spent far, far more time reciting the Lord's Prayer in the morning than we ever spent on evolution. I think it was probably about 3 or 4 days. So I'm not sure where all this money is going, or tax money, or this or that. But yeah, I spent more time praying in the morning, the Lord's Prayer.
Gotcha. Thanks for your both that question as well as your guys' responses. Raphael Block, thanks for your super chat. He said, Kent, would you please steelman plant and animal definitions and then list the features that differentiate humans from animals under that you could say taxonomy of kind of the secular or evolution definitions of plant and animal?
Okay, I think everybody that teaches or learns studies biology would agree there is a plant kingdom and there is an animal kingdom, and they're different. Now, there's a few screwball ones at the microscopic level. They get pretty hard to classify, but as a general rule, they can be classified in the plant kingdom or animal kingdom. I use the illustration of our tool bench downstairs, our tool in the shop here. We can classify tools. Is it a screwdriver or a hammer or a wire cutter? Well, most of them are easy to classify. There's a few that are hard to classify, like where are we going to put this? Is this considered a hammer? Because it's, the fencing pliers. It's got a hammer on it. I don't know. But I think 99.99% of all the living organisms can be easily classified into plant or animal kingdom. Now, plants, best definition I've ever heard, plants have a body, they grow, they reproduce, they replicate, but animals have something different than plants. Animals have a consciousness of life that, as far as we know, plants do not have. A consciousness, they're not only alive, they know they're alive. Something's different between the animal and plant kingdom. Then there's man, which is not only has a body, like plants do and animals do, we have a consciousness of life, and we have a consciousness of an afterlife. We have a consciousness of God that no other creature seems to have. There's something different. Call it body, soul, and spirit, if you'd like. Plants only have a body. Animals have a body and a soul, a spirit. Man has a body, soul, and spirit. We have certainly something different between man and the animals. Now, if you wish to believe there's no difference, you can believe whatever you want. But I think everybody with one eye and half a brain would tell you there's something different between man and animals. Here we are worried about Bill Ludlow dying. You think any of the animals ever go around worried about somebody that died? You talk about the elephants going back to the grave. Are there any other animals besides the elephant going back to the grave?
Dolphins too, mourn their death.
Oh, dolphins. Okay.
Yeah. And not only that, the only difference between man and animals, because man is obviously an animal, is we have one hell of an imagination.
So that's the only difference, is we have an imagination. You don't think elephants
There
have
is
an
no
imagination?
difference. We are an animal, but we have one heck of an imagination. We can make up stories, good stories, big stories.
Oh, Darwin made up a huge one, didn't he? Wow, what a story.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for those responses, as well as Fifth Element. Thanks for your super chat. They said, what does Planck time have to do with millions of years? What is Planck time, Kent? And can you answer without your ridiculous comments? Are you like them apples? Okay, go ahead, Kent.
Well, I'm sure anybody who believes they came from a rock thinks my comments are ridiculous. Okay, you can believe what you want. Well, as he said tonight, as Mark said, this is where the numbers begin to break down. The math breaks down. This is where you enter into fairy tale imagination land. When reality breaks down, you're in fairy tale land, okay? And this evolution with the millions of years and animals turning from non-living material to living material, it's all imagination land. It's not just the numbers breaking down, it's reality breaking down. It didn't happen. They can dream it happened, they can think it happened if they like, but that's not science. Science is limited to what we can observe, study, and test. Science cannot deal with many different things.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of different disciplines outside the field of science. So I think the answer Mark gave, that Planck time is where things break down, the mathematics breaks down. That sounds like a reasonable explanation, but it really, got to admit, this is where you're going into fairy tale, no longer science.
Gotcha. Next up, last one. Thanks for your super chat. So she goes by this. This is her own name.
Oh, I know what it's going to be.
Stupid Whore Energy.
Yeah.
Given that two proteins don't need to have the same amino acid sequence to have the same function, doesn't the similarity make more sense in light of common descent? So I think this is referring back to the question on why is it that humans and I think it was maybe apes share the FOX2 gene.
Is that question for me?
Yes.
Well, our English language has 26 letters. You can rearrange those letters and make an infinite number of words, apparently, okay? Certainly an infinite number of sentences. It would be limitless how many different sentences could be made. By just changing one or two letters, you can radically change the meaning of the sentence. George went and stole the money from the bank. It would be an example. I could say, John went and stole the money from the bank. Well, that's many, many similarities in the sentence sequence, but a vastly different meaning. Like the sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, contains every letter of the English alphabet. You can rearrange those 26 letters and make totally different words and different meanings, or make most of them, if you just simply drop those letters from that sentence on the table, 99.99999% of the time, it would make nothing, wouldn't make a sentence at all. So the amino acids, the 20 different amino acids found in proteins, you can be arranged different ways and make different proteins. I agree. What does that prove? Somebody's arranging them. There's a designer to make all the proteins. And we can eat the meat from the cow and develop and digest it into our system. But the cow ate the grass to get it into his meat. And the grass ate the dirt to turn it into grass. It's an amazing design, the cycle of nature that God designed. And I'm going to give God the glory for what he did. I think it's amazing. I love studying it. Taught biology for years. I love studying the biology, study of life. Life is amazing. Very different than non-life. And it's fun to study. Come on down to our science center and we'll give you a tour and let you learn about real science. God made everything.
Kent, I can't imagine what that class was like where you taught biology. I can't even for a minute imagine what you taught.
I'm sure you can.
Because pretty much everything that you talk about when it comes to biology is, I don't even know what you could have taught. I really don't. I would love to have another debate with you and hear some of this stuff because.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you
both. Know what to say.
We do have one question that just came in. So thanks, Mark, for your patience. That I think every single question was for Kent so far. Mark, one person just fired it in. Pansel Jones, thanks for your super chat. They said, Mark, which features did not develop by evolution?
what car didn't fly? I don't know what that means, James. You gotta Kent, can you help me out on that? Because everything is through evolution. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's asking.
Mark, I can definitely help you out.
Help me on this one.
Nothing is through evolution. Everything was designed. It was designed to make variations available. Some people are taller or shorter, but there's variations within the created kind. There are people 7 feet tall. There is nobody 400 feet tall. There are people 40 inches tall, but there's nobody 1 inch tall. God designed every feature and gave it limits, gave it variations that can happen. And the variations are fun to explore. That's biology, the study of life. Love it.
All the 140 foot tall people got hit by the moon.
Next up, we want to say thanks so much. We've already gone over Kent's time once again. I'm so sorry about that. Kent usually asks for like maybe an hour, a little over an hour, and we've honestly, I'm so sorry, Kent, that we have gone over that. But want to say thank you to our speakers. We appreciate them. It's been a pleasure to have both of them. I think this has been, it was. I really, honestly, I think that the audience loved it as well. We have had a huge audience tonight that seems to be very lively. So we really, I know that I totally enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you spending your time. And with that, want to let you know one more time, their links are in the description. So you can actually hear more. If you enjoyed that, there's plenty more where that came from. So we appreciate both of our speakers and want to let you know out there, thanks for being here, and keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. Take care, everybody.